Ron G Morning Show, Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on WSAN Radio. All right, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, we're doing an afternoon show, and we do these every once in a while because my special guest today is Dutchess of Plenty. I met her a few years ago, and as we were talking, we had a lot in common. I didn't know that her brother was Billy. Until we started talking, I mentioned Eichelhart, and she jumped from my like, yeah. I said, did I know your brother?
Yeah.
So that was a good thing that we did coming up here. And a lot of people don't realize you never know who you know. You never know who God put you with.
That's true.
Because God got a tendency of bringing people together they don't even know supposed to be together.
That's right.
And that is the whole good thing about this is when God touch you, then there's no denying it's the real thing.
Yes.
So I'm glad everybody knows. So we are here this afternoon in the presence of Dutchess of Plenty. And she has some poems that she wrote. She wrote one for my mom that's passed away. And I saved that poem. Matter of fact, I printed it out and have it hanging on my wall next to where the church gave a certificate for my mom on everything. So yeah, so I do honor and treasure your poem because you have a gift. You have a gift that a lot of people don't have that gift. You can sit down and come up with a poem and there it is. So you got a good gift.
Well, I have to give God the honor and the glory because it's not me. And I'm so thankful every day that I wake up and God gives me another day to live. You know, that's another day to write because when I'm praying and in meditation with God, God just, you know, he speaks things to my spirit and I just go write it down. And I amaze myself sometimes because I'm like, now, you know, by myself, I wouldn't have never come up with that. So I do know it's God and I acknowledge God for the gift that he has given me to write, you know, and I know that my gift is to serve the community, to serve his people, to serve his children in a capacity of healing. You know, writing is very therapeutic and it's a very safe place to be when you're going through a very dark time. And so I know that God has given me this gift to help people heal. And I'm just so thankful, Ron, that you have me on your show. This is our second time around.
Yes, ma'am.
The first time, you know, I dedicated a poem to his mother, like he said, and it was called I Am a Woman with a Place. And she was an enormous, just beautiful person. All the stories I have heard about her, she is just exceptional. And so that poem really fits her because she touched all areas of life, community, and people. And she left a beautiful legacy. And part of that legacy is sitting here today. So thank you so much for having me back.
Okay. Okay, well, I appreciate that. It means a lot because if it wasn't for my mom, what we'd be doing, I'm doing right now. She did a lot of things for the community growing up. I remember times it was Lake County Community Action Project that she was the executive director there and that she would put camps together for the kids during the summertime. It was a place for you to go if you need money to pay your gas, electric, groceries.
That's wonderful.
And she did all that. And I watched from a distance. Wasn't ready to learn. You know, when you sit back and watch from a distance, you know, I see what was going on. And I see what my parents instilled in me, but I was hard at it. I wasn't ready to do any of that stuff. And then my firstborn came around and I realized what they were trying to tell me.
Oh, yeah.
So I realized that. So, but poems. Give us a little details on that gift that God gave you to write poems.
Well, I tell you what, it didn't happen overnight. I've been writing since I was 12 years old, writing poetry, short stories, reflections, and different things, you know, in that category. And I have just been writing since I was 12 years old, and it hasn't changed. I think the older that now that I'm older, of course, my poems change, as I get older, because there's a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of life, there, or whatever and stuff. But it's just been an ongoing journey since I was 12 years old. And the name Dutchess of Plenty comes from, it's a nickname that came from my uncle, my father's brother. He always called me Dutchess. And he said, I've always got so much to say, although I went through a period, in my life where I had trouble with my speech. And so I didn't have much to say. And so that forced me into more of a writing, mode. But my uncle would always say, "Ooh, you always got so much to write about. You have so much to say. It's just, just so plentiful, And so that's where the nickname comes from, Dutchess of Plenty. So I kind of feel like, I am part of the kingdom, and everything, and part of the royalty of the kingdom. And God has given me so much to say. He has given me plenty of words of comfort. And so I put those words down on paper, and I try to reach out, to people with my poetry and my writing, to send a message that it's okay where you are in life. Everybody, goes through something. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to be sad, but writing is so therapeutic. And if I can just help somebody get to the next day because of something I wrote, then at that point, God gets all the glory. He is using me. I'm saying yes. And at the end of the day, if somebody thinks just for a minute, okay, well, I can get to the next day, it's something that was in that poem, or it was something in that reflection that really touched my heart, and I'm going to push on, well, then God has been glorified at that point, not me, but God.
That's so fantastic. So, like I say, it was therapeutic for you to write. And I find out with a lot of people, like my story is, I had a bad stuttering problem, and I was sort of like afraid to talk sometimes. So
Yeah.
I did other things, and but here I am right now today, doing the show, and here you are today. You write poems, and how many poems have you written so far? Do you have a count?
I don't have a count, but I think I'm getting close to the 100 mark. Okay. And there's been a lot of poems that have been stolen, a lot of poems that have been used. But, within our own personal journey, we learn along the way. Mm-hmm. And everything and stuff. So it's been quite a few. But I think I'm kind of getting close to that 100 mark. I've been writing, since I was 12. But along the way, you don't learn automatically how to safeguard yourself, safeguard your word. And along the way, I've had some writings I think were very significant that have been stolen and used or whatever. But we learn along the way, and I learned very quickly. And so everything I write, everything I do is, I get it copywritten,
Yes.
And everything.
So in the future, I'll predict something for you, all right?
No, come on with it.
I think I see a book coming along with all your poems in it. I see that coming.
Well, I tell you what, a lot of people have approached me and said, how come you've never written a book? How come you've never put these things together? And see, I'm a lot older now, and I kind of look at that and say, okay, now did I miss the boat? But see, this is where this is where it gets real confusing, and I try to explain to people. Since I've been writing since I was 12, as a teenager and then a young person in my 20s and 30s, because I knew God had called me to a ministry of words, my goal was always to help somebody, to heal somebody. You know, I was so caught up with that. How can I help? I want to help somebody. I want to reach out to somebody. I want to try to give somebody what I felt, you know, along the way in my life that maybe I didn't get, you know. So maybe I can give to someone what I didn't have coming up or coming along through my words. You know, I was just so caught up with wanting to help, wanting to serve God, wanting to give life to other people, you know, through my words, that I might have lost focus along the way, that I needed to start putting things together and make a book. My first impression was serving God and then helping people heal. That's where my priorities were. And I kind of feel like I missed the boat on that, but it's never too late.
You know, that's right. There's this young lady write poems. Her name is Lion Queen. I had her on the show a couple times, and I got her book. Very interesting writing in there.
Oh, wow.
Very interesting. I sit back and I read it. And I asked her the other day, about 2 weeks ago, hey, do you mind if I read some of these out on the radio? She said, sure, no problem.
Oh, wow.
So it's never too late. That's what I'm going to tell you. It's never too late. If he just put it in my heart, you got a book coming out. When he puts it in your heart, you need to go ahead and do that. That's what you're going to do.
Well, I receive it.
Mm-hmm.
I receive it, and I'm going to take it to the Lord. And I tell you what, if it's time, I'm ready.
All right. That's what I want to hear.
You know, I'm open to whatever God has for me. I'm ready for whatever God has for me. And I say that very peaceful way, because whenever God calls you to any ministry or to do anything for him, you don't have to worry about how or when or where. Well, Lord, you want me to do this, but now you know I don't have that, so how am I going to do this? Well, this costs money. I don't know nobody, but I don't have a clue where to start. But when God calls you, the package is put together.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about when, where, how, and how to get this and how to get that, because it just all starts falling into place. And he puts people in your life.
Yes, he does.
That you've never met before. I mean, he handpicks his people to come together with other people, to always with the goal to glorify him, to glorify him.
Yes.
So when I say whatever, that I'm open to whatever God has for me, I am, and I'm not worried about it. You know, whatever he calls me to do, I'm ready for that, because I know he's going to provide. He's going to provide everything. And the journey that he puts you on, the road is going to be very clear. There's not going to be rocks and boulders, and you're not going to be stumbling and bumbling and I'm not, I don't say that being naive to the point that there won't be problems along the way. But for the most part, God is not going to give you something and not prepare you for it, you know.
Yeah, he will open that door and have everything.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
If like you said, I don't know how to do that, I don't have this, he will open that door and place you with people that have those things will help you.
That's right. And a perfect example of that is look where we are today. Now, I didn't know who Ron Gordon was. I had no idea the connections with the family, you know, the Summers family, the Iglehart family, the Gordon family. I had no idea. I had never met the man before. But you see how God how he has orchestrated a moment in time.
Yes.
To bring his people together to glorify him.
I look at it as bringing that village back together, how we used to
Oh,
have back in
yeah.
the days. Because I tell this story all the time. I did something down the street, 2 blocks away.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then 2 hours later, I get
Oh,
home.
yeah.
And my mom says, "So what you do out of stress?" How do you know what I did? And y'all think cell phones and all that is fast now. It's nothing no better than have a village together when everybody in the community is keeping an
Just
eye on
word of
you.
mouth.
And they know whose son you are. They know exactly who to call.
It just takes one person to see you.
And they do. So that's why
There it goes.
that's what I wish for back in, that we get to that village again, because the way the climate is right now, we need to get together and have that village back just to back each other up and support each other.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're looking for. So let's move on. So you have a new poem for us, huh?
It is brand spanking new. I don't think it's been over a month, but it just really touched my heart when God gave it to me. And I had been praying so much for the world, for the country, for people that I know, friends and acquaintances. I had been praying for family members and friends. I had just been praying for everybody because the world is going through enormous changes all over the world. Our nation, our country is going through so many changes, and it's affecting everybody emotionally. Our personal families and our friends, people that we know, are going through so many horrific things in life and changes. And I had been praying about that, just so much, just crying out to the Lord, and everything. And I had been spending a lot of time. Oh, I should have got my Bible, but that's okay. It's the book of Jeremiah, and it's a verse in there. That's what I'm saying. I should have got my Bible because I don't want to quote it wrong, but about, crying out to the Lord, seeking the Lord, and he'll show you great and mighty things you didn't know, things that you couldn't have possibly known in your flesh. But in the Holy Spirit, God can reveal some things to you. And I was just praying and in meditation and everything. And God began to speak to me about change. And I had a similar conversation with the individual. I don't have her permission to say this on camera, her name or the situation. And this lady began to pray for me. And her prayer was so full of encouragement, and it was so full of acceptance of who I was and where I was in my life. And she had shared some things with me too. But in this prayer, she prayed, despite what she was going through, despite what I was going through, there was an enormous seed of love. Despite that, there was no bitterness. There was no anger in her prayer. Despite all that was surrounding her, surrounding me, surrounding the world, my family and friends, that prayer was just like a sea of love, though, in the midst of that. And so when I got off the phone with her, again, going into prayer again, getting back into the book of Jeremiah, God began to speak this poem to me about change. And so I wrote it down. And like I said, it's new.
You know, before we get to the poem, I was talking to a few brothers one time. We were talking about the way things are going in the world right now. All the earthquakes, tornadoes,
Yes, yes.
famine, all that's going on. And I asked this one guy who was a preacher, I said, are we going to biblical times right now? Because it looks like this is going to be a part of history, not only for us, but for the
Mhm,
Bible.
mhm.
And I'm not saying rewrite the Bible, because we see the things that it went through in the Bible.
Oh yeah,
We see
yeah.
all those things. So are we living in biblical terms right now? Go back and say, hey, this has never happened before.
Mhm, mhm.
You know, and he said, Ron, that's a good question. And I don't know how to answer that. We just take one day at a time.
Well, let me share something with you that might be a little bit out there,
Mhm.
and I don't mean to go from Ron's show to the Twilight Zone, but let me just kind of share something with you. I believe with all my heart that the earth is very sensitive, and the words that we speak, the hatred, um, the deceitful words, the profanity, the ugliness that comes out of our mouth. I believe it affects the earth, and I believe the land is listening, and I believe that it responds because let me say this: the words that we speak has a particular sound, a
Mhm.
particular sound. And when you're using words of comfort and love, that makes a certain sound. And that sound begins to vibrate, to emanate around where you are, you know. But when you're spewing a lot of ugliness, evil, and hatred in your words, the world feels that too.
Mhm.
The earth feels that too. And I think, and I may be wrong, this would be something to really look into scientifically, you know, but I think we cause a lot of problems with the earth, the volcanoes, the tsunamis, and it's responding to human behavior. And, you know, I really think that. But as far as what you were saying, I am very much in agreement with the word of God. I believe that we are being communicated with through the word of God, that we are living in the last days. And these are things communicating to us and showing us how much time has passed, where we are in life, but yet we still have a chance.
Mhm.
We still have a chance to repent and to go to God. And I believe things can change. Yes.
Yeah,
But I do think we're living in a very biblical time of change.
yeah, we are.
Mhm.
Wow. So yeah, that's some of the things we bring up when I'm sitting down there talking to people. We just bring stuff up and just start talking about it. And it's hard to get brothers together to sit down and talk. Now, I brought this up a couple of times that women in general, they can sit down, they can talk, everything's fine, they're talking, boom, boom. But getting a bunch of brothers together in a room is not, they don't.
You know what?
I don't know why.
I often think about that because, and you know what? I might be wrong, but I think it's a sensitivity
Mhm.
issue. Brothers don't want to get too deep in being sensitive. I might be wrong, I don't know. But you know, a woman is quicker to just put her emotions out there, you know, and
Mhm.
talk about it. But I don't think there's a lot of men that are at that point where they're just so free, just just to get their emotions out there and talk about, man, yeah, I saw this, man, I experienced this, and da da da. I
Mhm.
think it's harder for men to do that because it's an emotional
And,
issue, maybe.
and we are geared up to always do and hide our feelings.
Right.
We hide our feelings from everybody. Like women can sit down there and talk and cry and they're okay. Oh no, not a man. You better not cry. You're not a man. You better not do this. You're not a man. So it's instilled in us. We take all that, but we carry that burden. We carry that burden. And like, I'm going to say this, most men are afraid to talk even to their wives about what's going on because they're afraid, it happened to them before, that somebody can use what they said against them in any type of disagreement. Well, you said you was this. How did that? The whole idea to open up and to talk, not to turn around and come back on you with it.
Right.
I think that's what they're afraid of because it probably happened to them. I can't tell nobody anything. You're going to come back and call me out when we get to argument.
Well, maybe they feel like, or maybe you feel like it's a moment of weakness and you don't want to show that weakness. And it's not about that. You know, it's about being able to connect with real stuff and have real emotion and have real feeling. And that's not being weak. That's being human.
Yes. Well, women, I'm going to tell y'all something right now. You think you gossip, you're around some men, they gossip just as bad as your women. I'm telling you that right now. So, all right, so let's get on with the poem.
Oh, okay. The poem is called Change. And it's, like I said, based on change all over the world, change in my life and people around me. Changing life, don't change my love. Seasons come to an end. Don't look back, no regrets, but you can still look up and you can still fly. Your life is not over. Your life is not on hold, nor are you frozen in time. Your life is not yours by any means, but you can still look up and fly. Arrows may rise by day. Monsters might come in the night, but you can still look up and fly. When nesting spirits plan your end, they tempt your faith, they entice your soul, they mislead your heart, they invade your mind with a table fit for a king. But you can still look up and you can fly. Yes, the flesh is weak indeed, but it is written, my friend, you will win. Keep your eyes on the sparrow, watching as it leaves its lofty space, flapping its wings for the very first time as it matures quickly in the air and begins to soar into its new life. The old is gone. The new life has come. Renew your strength, my friend, for it is written. Now, look up and soar like an eagle.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Oh, man.
And that's called change.
So how long did it take you to write it? Did it just come to you or?
It just comes to me from well, I'm going to say from nowhere, but we know it comes from God. And I can write a poem in a matter of an hour. I can just be so engrossed in what God is speaking to my spirit. And whatever God gives me, I just write it down, write it down, write it down. And in its raw form, I can do a poem within an hour. But of course, it could take me a couple of days to clean it up. You know, but no, it doesn't. Once I get something real heavy in my heart, it don't take long.
No. I hear you on that. Don't take long to bring it out.
I wanted to share something with you that I didn't know, because on the phone we were talking about the different things that were going on this month. And I was letting you know that April, was Poetry Month. And in some places here in San Antonio, it's also Child Abuse Month. And you were telling me, well, hey, this is Black Women's uh, month. And when you said that, oh, I froze. I froze. And I said, oh no. And all of a sudden, my self-esteem got real wobbly. And let me tell you why. Because I experience a lot that I'm not Black enough.
Mm.
I'm not Black enough for the Black community. I'm not Black enough for the East Side. You know, I was born and raised on the East Side, you know, and so I was happy-go-lucky. I was fine until you said, you know, that this is also the month for, you know, for Black women, you know, and I just kind of froze because at that point I said, okay, should I go ahead with this interview? Yes. Should I do this? Because I get, everywhere I go, I get that a lot, you know, that I'm not Black enough.
Well, you know,
I'm just being honest with you.
No, I don't mind because I wrote a song called Shades of Love. I'm gonna send it to you. And
wow.
It was talking about colorism on the point you just made up, because they have always said that light-skinned people had a better chance than the dark-skinned people when it came down getting loans and all that. So I said, no, it's not. You Black, don't make it difference what shade you are. You Black. That's all there is to it. And so I came with that song I wrote on Shades of Love, and I was talking about colorism, on how we're battling racism with the whites, but yet we're battling colorism with ourselves. You see?
The racism within is the scary part.
Right.
I mean, I know as an African American woman, I'm going to face racism from other cultures. You know, that's just a given. That's life, okay? But that doesn't bother me as much as the racism within.
Right.
And I really, you know, I pray about that all the time, because if we ever get to a point as African Americans, as Black people, that we learn to completely come together like this and completely unify and not be jealous or envious of one another, and not let the different shades of Blackness intimidate us, we would be so powerful as a people. So, yes, I know racism is out there, and it is real.
Oh, very.
And it's real every day because I've faced it, you know. And yes, we need to talk about it. You know, we don't need to shut down and hide it and it go away. We need to talk about it, you know. But it is the racism within that scares me more.
Yeah.
And so when you told me that, I just froze, and I was like, oh, well, no, I'm not going to do this show, because, you know, it's going to be somebody.
Let them.
You know, to say something weird or whatever. But I prayed over it, Ron, and God put it in my heart that when I come to Him and humble myself, and I humble myself to Him, and I surrender it all to Him, He said He don't see color. He said He just sees my heart. And that He wants me to take the gifts that He has given me and do what I'm supposed to do in my lifetime and glorify Him. So I did. I had a little moment there when you said that, you know, but nevertheless, it's too late. I'm here.
I'm going to see the wonder. Here I am, signed, sealed, delivered.
Yes, I'm here. It's too late for that now.
Yeah. All right, Miss Dutchess of Plenty, we appreciate you taking the time out, inviting me to your home so we could record this. And when I told her I'll come over and do the show. And she said, really? I said, yeah, I just come over and do it. It won't take long to do a setup. It didn't take long to set it up.
You are a good guy. You
So-
really are. And I appreciate you coming.
Mhm.
And I appreciate the time that you took out of your busy schedule, because you didn't have to do that. But I guess it was something in this that you saw
Mhm.
and you wanted to pursue it, because I know you are a praying man too.
Yeah, that too. All right, we appreciate you coming on the show. Dutchess of Plenty. This is Ron G with WSAN Radio. We'll catch everybody on the flip side. As I say all the time, peace and chicken grease. I catch everybody next week.
Bye-bye, and God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to WSAN Radio. Catch us on our YouTube channel, WSAN Radio SA. Subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button.